do know and people I don't know. My name's Christian, and I mean, there's so many ways I could introduce myself, but I'm just going to say that the most important thing to me in life is truth and love. And someone will only be able to hear that from their heart, not the head. And that has sent me on the journey of who I am, exploring everything that I can possibly explore about the human experience and condition. And sexuality I've discovered to be a very important one. So yeah, super stoked to be here. And it is my mission in this world to unleash people to the gifts that are available to us in life. Love, feeling, truth, not living a life that is conditioned for us, but one where we get to experience the true essence of life. And I get my wisdom from people that are on their deathbed. I get my wisdom from people that are old around how it's important to live this life. So that's me, and yeah, super stoked to be here.
Yeah, cool.
And love you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'll introduce myself to those that don't know me. My name's Melody, and I work in the realms of sacred sexuality and feminine embodiment. And yeah, I'm a truth seeker. I'm here to discover what's true and what's not, and I'm not going to stop until I feel truth in every single inch of my body. Yeah, and I think like truth is love, right? Love is truth. That's the truth of it all, is that everything comes down to that thing that we, I guess, this idea that we have of love is truth. And yeah, I'm just following that thread and following the journey to find it and feel it and experience it and be it. So yeah, that's me. Yeah.
And I would love to just, for anyone that's watching right now, there's 4 people, I can't see exactly, but anyone who watches or does, is I really just want to presence you in the space too, and welcome you, and know that you're part of this. And so if you've got questions, comments along the way, curiosities, we're here to explore together. You know, Melody and I have got our own journeys, but we're no sex gurus or God like that. We're 2 human beings, just like you, on the exploration together. Yeah, so I just want to presence that for anyone that is watching or is going to watch. Please comment, ask questions. You're part of this just as much as we are.
Thanks, Christian. So yeah, me and Christian had this epic conversation when we went for brunch a couple of weeks ago. We kind of dropped in quite hard with each other after Christian came out of training. And we spoke about masculine and feminine polarities and kind of moving away from those labels. But I understand the importance of these archetypes and why we need to know what they are. And we spoke about intimacy and what we're looking for in relationships. And then we thought we'd come and jump on here and share a little bit deeper about it. So I guess I'd love to ask you the first question. What does the term sacred sexuality mean for you?
Good question. Yeah. I want to break it up into sacred and sexuality. You know, there was a guy that I followed even just a couple of months ago that kept using the word sacred, and I didn't have access to that. You know, it's like when we read or see something, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. But I don't have the embodied living experience of what that is. And now for me that I've come through some experiences, it's like the sacred is, I'm going to explain this best I can, is I've done so much work to get to presence, to get to a nervous system that is so sensitive to life, that is sensitive to pleasure, that is sensitive to a bird that tweets over there, that is sensitive to a coin dropping, that has clear channels that when people massage me, they go, I'm being healed by massaging. Because the energy in the system, this channel, my job is to make it clear. And it's not fully clear. I have mentors that keep picking up on it. But that is my access to being able to see through this sensory experience, to feel, to hear, to listen. And it goes beyond that to the sixth sense, which, you know, Napoleon Hill writes about in Think and Grow Rich. It's like something that goes beyond the five senses that we mainly experience alive. And what I said at the beginning around, I'm here to experience life, we cannot fully experience what is available to us unless we've got out of the head, we've got into the body, we've accessed the nervous system, we've cleared the trauma to experience. And then I can see the sacredness of those birds that talk to me in the morning, that I'm interconnected to every single thing that happens in this world, that when I come into a home space, I keep it clean to be sacred. I don't trash my house. I don't trash nature. Everything is sacred. Everything is home. Every human being, seeing them not as their physical. You know, there's a woman that was talking to me and she's like, everyone, because she's attractive, everyone sees her physical self, but never sees who she truly is. She can't feel seen. How to see the soul in a human being that goes beyond their physical nature, their gender, their demographic, their age. And when I have that seen in me, it's rare. That is sacred. You know? And then sexuality, what I've come to learn, you know, as someone that grew up as a conditioned boy looking at magazines and pornography and ejaculating for releases and sex to prove I'm good enough, is experiencing through the sacredness of human experience that this body is a temple, that there is trauma stored in the penis and the anus of me just because I was born a man. That I am here in the conditioning of how people see me as dangerous for many women, as a perpetrator, as so many things because of the organs that were given to me. And I feel this inherent fear in me as a man of my own sexuality, so disconnected because no one in society in my early life could teach me to connect to my own body. So I had sex from the head. I lived from the head. They say the longest journey a man takes is from his head to his heart, 30 centimeters. I say 30 centimeters and add the penis, the extra 30 centimeters. Because to experience what I've experienced with it is not just some organ that's some physical object for men and women to look at and feel or whatever. No, like when I've experienced true pleasure and resonance where my nervous system and my heart is connected to my penis, which is connected to my head, and there are sensations coming through the body, and I can breathe sexual energy up down the perineum, up through the sacral, up the spine to the back of the head, and touch the tongue to my mouth to feel that sensuality orgasm through my brain, and my pineal gland activates. I mean, we're talking as scientific as it gets.
Yeah.
And then when I can see a man or a woman in their sacredness and their sexuality, the innocence of it. I mean, we can talk all about sexual energy and all that, but the innocence that sexual energy carries underneath that, wow, you are a beautiful specimen of nature that is sacred. And the woman holds the portal between heaven and earth. And her vagina, her yoni, is not just some hole. It is like it is energetic and opening and receiving. Like there's so much sacred, you know. And even to my sperm, it's like every time I unconsciously ejaculate, I feel for all these friends in high school. I think of how much men were ejaculating. The nutrients that are coming out, the proteins that are coming out, the vitamins that are coming out. The amino acids that are coming out with every single ejaculation of sperm is there to create another human being, a baby. And a man unconsciously ejaculating and just to get an emotional and a head release, all the life that is available to us is just going boop, 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 rather than breathing and circulating that right through the body. Vitality, life force. I mean, health and well-being is in a cover to people right now. Like, without sexuality there, we don't even know what's possible for health and well-being. So that's my long-winded way of answering what does sacred sexuality mean to me.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Epic. I'm like, how do I follow that? I was actually walking this morning and I was like dropping into this live and that question came through. And then I was like, similar to you, just like, what is sacred? And 3 words really dropped in for me. And it was presence, intention, and reverence. And it's like, that's what makes any experience, right? And I was walking and the sun was just rising and I stopped and I was just kind of watching it. And it's like, you can make everything sacred, you know, and that is the presence that is required to make it sacred, the intention behind it. Like, what are we here for and what are we creating together and how are we experiencing this and what do we want from this? How do we want it to feel? Like, how can it feel? And then the reverence of being like, oh, this is bigger than me. And if I choose to move aside, this is like fucking magic, you know? And just those 3 words are for me, like the piece that makes sacred sexuality. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we doing this? And if we come back to the truth of it, it's like, we can only really partake in it when we understand the why. Like, oh, because I love you, oh, because I'm attracted to you, like those kind of things, and bring that consciousness into it. Yeah.
I want to ask you,
please, because
for whatever reason, I have so many communities that I'm connected to in my life. Everything from through to, like, you know, blue collar workers, through to corporates, through entrepreneurs, like all the way across. And so a lot of people get triggered by stuff from me. Because like when they haven't integrated this piece, they get triggered by this. Then the next group hasn't. And so I would love to open the space to hear from you as a woman. What, like, why would you even take the journey of sacred sexuality? And I mean, maybe for you, there was some, you know, thing that really just, you know, happened in your life that made you go down that path. But like, why in the first place would you do that?
I feel like the why is to experience life in a richer and fuller way. Like, that's why I'm doing it now. But I think initially I was really disconnected and I'm really fearful of my sexual energy. I'd misused it for such a long time in my early years, like so completely misused this power portal, right? And it was really confronting for me when I had this sober moment of like, oh, I'm doing this thing and I'm fully overriding my system and I'm actually fully overriding like my truest desire and what my heart feels, and I'm completely abandoning myself by using this thing. And then for years I suppressed it and completely disconnected to it, and I came across the work of Wild Grace, and it was just like this activation of like, I remember, like I know that I can have access to that and use it in a healthy way and experience, like I was living like heart up basically, and everything about me was like I was going to kirtans and like doing all this like really beautiful heart work, like having Reiki, all this kind of stuff that was really like opening me here. And I was just not connected to my base at all. And I guess I just received transmissions through social media and I was like, that's my piece. Like, I'm missing that, and I know that I have that, but I'm shaming it and suppressing it and disconnecting from it. And there's something in that for me. And we have so much conditioning around this, right? Like, I was at the beach topless this morning, and in Queensland it's not legal to be topless at the beach, and like, so part of my anatomy is offensive in whatever way. And there was an older woman walking past, and I could just feel her judgment and like her disappointment in me. And that's so conditioned within us, and we all hold so much shame around this part of us. And yeah, just like the landing back home and the coming back to this and reconnecting with this has fully made my life more complete, you know. And I will continue to go on this journey of breaking down the conditioning and breaking down the parts of me that feels disgusted and dirty by this thing. Like, we're so disconnected from our bodies. For a female to even like touch her pussy is like a no, you know. And I want to experience life as richly and as fully as I possibly can, and I believe that this is the way, fully. Yeah, to re-fantasize and like experience being in the body.
I'm hearing, you know, if I were to say that, I mean, there are more parts to us. There's the head and the heart, and, you know, call it the sex, or, you know, the deepest parts of the body. It's like, I mean, just zooming out to a global perspective, I mean, you know, I'm so interested and passionate about change at a massive systems level. And it's like, I've gone through the not-for-profit, I've gone through the entrepreneur, I've gone through let's change the, and even corporate. And it's like, most of us are living from the head. Yeah. Because uni taught us to do that. School taught us to do that. And if we're doing that, like, it's like when I'm talking to people sometimes, it's like, and they're triggered, or there's different things going on, something, they'll have no idea what I'm talking about, because I know it comes from the head, which is coming from conditioning. And the heart, like, as an organ, as a journey, like, for someone to live from the heart, I can feel it. When I'm in the presence of someone living in the head and talking to me from the head and then from the heart, and people go, oh, love can't save the world. I'm like, you really knew what it was. Not attachment, eh? Not attachment, love. And then sex. It's like, that actually is what will change the world. And not from using our head through science to fix things, and such a limited view of the world, and this and this and this. Like, my heart as an organ heals my body. Sex as an experience, as you said, when it's intentional and sacred. I have had healing. And I'm in the world now. I used to be in the world of mental health, where people talk about psychologists, and you just need to share your story. I'm talking, we're going beyond that now. When I and every human being, yes, has a left, we're not getting rid of that, we're using our intelligence, is connected to the heart and then the sex. Because if we're just connected to the sex and not heart, this is why all those labels come out called, what are they? Fuck boys, and, you know, all these things. Because, like, a man's just learned about his sex, and he's like, so, you know, there's an innocence behind it, right? But it's like, there's definitely an innocence, but he's just going out and he's experiencing, experimenting, and But then it's like, when it connects in me, I'm going to use my experience. It's like the part of me that went into open relating was like, I need to experience this. Like, what's it like with a person? I need to understand myself. And then when it drew back up to the heart, it's like, oh no, my sex is even more safe. And when this is all connected, I'm using discernment, I'm using intelligence, I'm using love, and not like, you know, there's so many conditions. I used to be over loving and get penetrated and be all this like heartbroken guy all the time looking for the one. It's like, no, we mature that, we integrate that. Self-love. And then the sex, like, when I say the word orgasm, it is not just unique to a sexual encounter. It is to live life in the energy of vitality. Because my sperm, which carries the vitamins, the amino acids, the proteins, all the bits, that energy, everything is energy. But we focus so much on matter, this body and the physical sperm. No, it's like the energy that is underneath the molecular level of that is connected, moving through the heart. That's this vessel in this body through here. And then that field expands out. It's like, wow, have you ever experienced the whole room orgasm? That's a genuine question, actually.
It's a question. Not during like physical intimacy, but during day to day for sure, especially when I'm in nature. Like that's a really rich, full experience for me. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to ask you.
I want to ask you something. Let me ask.
All right.
I just want to riff off something that you spoke to. So you spoke to like living in the heart centers upwards, and I feel like there is this like nice guy archetype that lives in the heart, and like, you know, is just like friendly guy and disconnected from his desire, and kind of leaking his desire a bit everywhere, and then might just, you know, there's that real like nice guy thing, because we're fearful of this power, right? And we don't want to be penetrative, and we don't want to be like direct. And I'll just speak to from my personal experience, there's nothing hotter than a man being like fully direct about his desire, and me fully understanding where I am in our dynamic and being like, okay, cool, this is what he wants, I don't know if I'm available for that, or like, fuck yeah, I'm in. And like that true clarity of like what the connection is enables me to feel fully safe, right? But when we're in this like nice guy archetype where it's a bit kind of leaky and maybe a bit like touchy, or they're not really truly they're not being truly real with what it is that they want out of their connection, that's like pretty uncomfortable for me as a woman to experience. And I'd love to ask you, like, what's your, since integrating your sex center, how have people responded to your directness, and like what's that integration been like for you?
Yeah, so I can really understand the nice guy thing, because I suffered from that for so long.
Yeah, I think so many of us suffer from it.
I mean, yeah, nice guy, girl, like,
well.
yeah. And the simplest way for me is that nice guy thing, like, because I've integrated so much, I became a safe space for men and women. And so people would share with me a lot. And what I got into was, you know, we put terms on this. We call it light masculine, dark masculine, just for terms, right? It doesn't really have to mean too much. But just say I was in the light masculine. I'm a safe space. So women come and share with me because they don't feel safe with so many men in the world and all this eye penetrating and men that lack emotional intelligence. So they're coming and sharing. And the bit around that, though, was because I was in my heart and hadn't done the shadow work and not fully connected to my sex, and I had some inner child wounds. It's like, hey, my desire is for divine partnership. And then I'm getting all these women intimately offering, and, you know, beautiful women. And I'm like, oh, is that the one? Oh, is she into me? Oh, da-da. But no, I was just getting used, right? I mean that in the nicest way, but for intimate connection, because it wasn't elsewhere. And then I'm like, oh yeah, intimate connection, great. And then my heart's here, and I have a desire for connection and service, right? I have this deep desire for service. But then it was constantly like pain in my heart, because any nice guy or nice girl, including myself, is disconnected from self. And there is lack of clarity in self. And so it's actually not safe, as safe as it may appear, because under the surface is the desire to want to have sex with you, is the desire to want to be in a relationship with you, is the desire, whatever the desire is, but it's not clear in the self, and therefore it's not clear with another human being, and it's suppressed. And so I'm just going to be walked over, loving, nice heart guy that never gets what he wants. And when I integrate that shadow work and the sex, you know, there's so much truth. Oh my God, like in men and women, right? I've witnessed it, I've seen it. It's like, I'm ashamed of being a slut. I'm ashamed of being a man, and I'm ashamed of making mistakes. And, you know, so many people, we just go into this thing of get the job, get married, have kids. It's all fine, but it's for safety. And not recognizing a lot of it's attachment, when actually my truth in here
Desire.
is, I just want to be connected.
Yeah.
I just want to be loved. Hello, Anetha. Beautiful.
Hey, Anetha.
And when I do the shadow work, what's underneath that is, hey, if I'm just talking straight to myself, I am a sexual being. I'm a heart being. I'm here for intimacy. I want you to see me in my soul. I don't want to be objectified. I'm here for my sex. I want to have sex with you. I want to ravish you with consent and boundaries. I want to be an animal. I want to be soft. I want to be gentle. I want to receive you. Have you gone to the depths that I've gone to so you can receive me? Are you responsible? And when I own all my desires, all that I am, you know, people say this to me, it's like, fuck no, that's my boundary. Don't go there. Don't fuck with me. Don't use me. Don't use my heart. Respect this heart, respect this body, respect sex. If you are asking for respect, you have to do the same. And I'll give that to you. Because the more I learn about myself, it gives me more access to truly respect another. If I don't know my own boundaries, no wonder I keep fucking crossing people's boundaries. And they haven't even told me. They don't communicate, they just get triggered, then we go into a boom, a relationship breakdown or something happens. Because I, in my innocence, didn't even know what they were for you, because I didn't even know what they were for me. Yeah. And this is where I always come back to compassion, compassion, compassion after I've done the healing. You know, I've worked with so many people, I've been so part of sexual assault cases, right? Like all kinds of child warriors, people that haven't talked in families for 10 years. You know, I'm talking married, divorced, kids, like all the bits. And it's like, we're all actually doing, no one's a victim and perpetrator. I want to get that really. We have cultural conditioning that women are victims and men are perpetrators. I understand that this is what's played out because we keep creating this, but we're all victims and perpetrators in it. We're all victims and perpetrators to the patriarchy. I want to be here to fucking support men as victims to the patriarchy. And to many, that'll sound like a weird thing, but do you know how many men I know that are disconnected from their hearts and their sex because they, in human history, had to kill each other with swords and guns, so their trauma shut down their whole fucking system, so they can't be the fathers we want them to be, so they're all eye-gazing and fuck everything that moves, because they actually just need love, and they don't even know it. And that doesn't excuse poor behavior, but it's like when we get to the fucking core of every human being, as you said at the start of this call, it's fucking love.
Yeah.
And we can't do love without sex, unsuppressed, truly.
Yeah. I think, like, thank you for riffing that. I think, like, that's such a big basic piece, right? Is like we're so disconnected from what it is that we actually want, and we hold so much conditioning and shame around these pieces. And it's like, how can I express what I want when I don't fucking know what it is that I want? Like, we're so disconnected. And then when we kind of feel like, oh, I kind of feel like that's what I want, it's then like, oh no, I can't have that, or I shouldn't want that, or oh, does that make me a bad person because I want to do that? You know, and it's like, we're so disconnected from, like, what do we want? we can have, this is the thing, like our lives can be as fruitful and as rich as we want, and we can have as much experience as we desire, but we're so disconnected from that very basic thing. It's like, we don't know.
That's it. And it's like the lives that so many of us are living are what we think we want.
Right.
But when I get to the depth of working with someone, and you actually get to the core of what they want, it's not what we think we want or the conditioning of it. Because a lot of the time we're working on the top of I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough.
The ego wants, like, I want this thing for status. I want this thing because it will make me feel better. I want to be this thing, or like be seen or interpreted. I want you to see me as this, so I'm going to do that. But is it actually what we truly, is it like what our heart wants, or what our sex wants, or what the physical body actually is reacting to? A lot of the time, no.
And what you're saying there is so many of us are living from the outside in. When
Right.
I have a partner, when I have the $1 million, when I have the thing. And I just can't say how many people I've met in my life who are famous, super wealthy, end of life, and they just go, that's not it. I was chasing, like, so it's like if we live the inside out, so I'm talking integrated head, integrated heart, integrated sex out, those people that I meet, they don't need much. They, like, talking to someone recently who's like successful business, and I'm like, what's your life about? What's the meaning? And it's so simple. It's like, just growing, learning about myself, swimming in nature for 2 hours, connecting with some people, and life, Ram Dass. We make it so complicated, but it's actually so simple. It's so simple,
Yeah, I was speaking to somebody the other day, and I asked them the question of how they were, and they just reeled off like a list of things that they'd achieved that week. And I was like, no, I'm asking you how you are. Like, how are you feeling in your body, and how are you? Not like, oh, I did this thing and I got this thing. It's like, but how are you? Like, what are you feeling in your core right now?
I want to ask you, I asked someone that the other day, I said, how's your heart today? And they reflect back like, wow, no one has ever asked me that.
My favorite.
I want to ask you, because when you talk about the body, I know I've had an absolute journey. What does that even mean? What does feeling mean? Can you explain to me what you mean by living from the body, and what does feeling actually mean to you?
It's like, I've had a really fucking epic journey with my body, and like all my work is about building a relationship with the body. And for me, it's like being so attuned to the subtleties that I'm listening and responding from that space. Like, I'm literally receiving information from life, from nature, from people, and I'm feeling sensation in my body, and then from that I'm responding. And I feel like living from the body is getting me closer to truth. And that's the thing that I'm like seeking, right? Is this, I'm a truth seeker. And I fully believe that following the sensation of receiving information, like when I'm speaking to people, I might get activated in certain places, and I can feel it in my body. Like, I might put my hands on my chest because I want to cover a particular place, or I might put my hands on my sacral or on my belly because I'm like, oh, there's energy coming towards these places. And I'm just responding, and I'm also feeling where I'm feeling activated, and I'm like, oh, my heart feels really open to this person. I'm really enjoying this connection, or like, oh, I'm kind of aroused. And that might be like listening to music might send me into arousal, or like the way that somebody's speaking, I might be like, wow, this is activating my body. And yeah, for me, it's like these sensations that I'm experiencing, and then I'm responding from what I'm receiving.
Amazing. And because as someone who trained in commerce and like was like top student in uni academic research, I was trained from my head. And even like masturbating is if I'm looking at porn, it's or men in the street that get boners, it's not even, it's a disconnect from the penis, the body, and the head. Actually just objectify, it's like it's a visual image. It's actually a head erection.
It's hyper arousal as well on the system. So it's like you're not actually tuned into the truth. It's just like, oh, I'm watching this thing and I'm aroused.
No. Because if I talk about self-pleasure as a man for a moment, it's like if I'm looking at a visual content out of me to get aroused and then I masturbate, it is actually disconnection. Like I can get an erection and ejaculate from disconnection. And there's a difference when what you were talking about is it takes sensitivity. And this is why a man or woman who is connected to their sexuality is more sensitive to life, the nervous system. Because if I can have no outside stimulation and I close my eyes and I softly touch my body and I, feel the nipples, whatever it is, subtle sensations, right? Slowly, like the thighs all part, I will feel my body come online, like alive. Because what people call chi or energy is starting to activate. And it's like myself as a man disconnected from that for most of my life. Disconnected from that. And when you talk about truth being in the body, like, I mean, I just can look around the world right now. It's like most people are living from the head. But this body, what I've learned, this is science, is the body is the most subconscious. It's the most intelligent system we have. And this is only 5%. So when we're taking in information into head and then using that to create reality, I'm only using 5% of my intelligence. And when you're saying you're living from your body and it's getting you closer to truth, well, I mean, you do the math. 95% is much more than 5%. You are closer to truth.
Yeah. I feel like when we talk about sexuality, I feel like there's such a like misinterpretation that we're literally just talking about sex and like the act of this thing, and it's like it's so much more than that. And it's everything that you're saying. It's like this sensitivity to life and this listening and this receiving and this experiencing just generally more. And that can be more, you're just feeling so much more. So you can experience more pleasure, and you can also just like go to the depths of your grief and living. Like, I know when I'm experiencing grief that I'm fully living, right? Because that's like one of the deepest sensations that we're able to experience. It's like, if I can sit here and be with this, I can also experience ecstasy. Like, that's fully available to me.
Range. I hear so many of our nervous systems are wired. We're suppressed, right? Trauma stuck in the body, so we just feel basic emotions, right? Not too much passion because I'm working a job I don't like. Then I go drink on the weekend, so using some stimulants to just keep the hormones and the chemistry in the body in a certain way. It's like when we just gotta, like, it's the energy of, we just gotta fucking unfuck ourselves, just get rid of all the shit that's bullshit, and then experience the range of grief that is actually underneath all of the alcohol and the job you don't like. Grief and sadness and pain. And the irony of that is everything is balanced, as Mason just said. Thanks for dropping that in. Is then you get to actually experience ecstasy and bliss that people talk about without ecstasy as a drug. I'm talking, like Yeah, when I was younger, I experimented with all those kind of chemical drugs, and then I've gone down the whole natural plant. It's like, I know that those things are activating what's already exists in my body.
Of course.
You know? Yeah. And it's like, now I can do
something that's not like in you, you know? It's like when we talk about pleasure, again, sorry to interrupt you, Kristian, but when we talk about pleasure, it's like, I'm experiencing this thing, but it's not because of you that I'm experiencing it. It's because it's available to me in my body. So the more that I can sensitize my own body and experience what it means to actually be in the body, the deeper the experience is in union, because I'm already having that, you know?
Yeah, I just want to share that. I'd love to ask you about,
Please.
I get this a lot, this whole, I know you said at the start, you're like kind of moving away from masculine, feminine.
Yeah.
But, you know, I receive this a lot. It's like, what is this union in you of masculine, feminine? And then, you know, depending on, you know, if this is for anyone, depending what genders you're into, right, or anything in between, it's like, for me, I'm a man, right? And I'm attracted to women. So it's like, people keep saying to me, it's like, I've never been around such an embodied man. I've never been around such a divine masculine, right? There's like this, okay, this, like, I'm a pillar for something. But I want to hear from you, like, the journey into your own wholeness, masculine, feminine, yin, yang, whatever you've needed to journey into, to heal something, to integrate something, to become the whole you. I would love for you to explain that journey. And I don't know if have you heard of the heroine's journey before?
No.
Are you familiar with that? It's so a woman who studied many women's journeys through life is the idea that because we're in this patriarchal system, many young girls start to suppress their feminine energies by looking, because they see boys and men are validated, and then they go into this masculine world, and it's like, I need to work and be really hard and be more like a man. And then and it's like this whole fight in the system that's happening right now. And then there's some emotional, spiritual turmoil, and that usually gets triggered by becoming a parent, maybe, or women in their 30s or 40s, right?
Yeah.
And then what's happened is they descend into what's called the goddess energy to reclaim their feminine, and then they have this desire to heal the mother wound, so to reconnect with the mother, all the stuff, the resentment they would have had towards their mother as a young, poor mothers, you know, most connected through the umbilical cord, and then both sons and daughters were conditioned to do this, and then they integrate the feminine and then the masculine. That's the heroine's journey, yeah, studied. So, you know, wherever you're at on that, but just would love to hear your journey of healing and integrating the different parts.
Yeah, cool. So I guess my relationship with my feminine essence, I became quite disconnected from her because I couldn't trust myself in this energy. And that's what a lot of it came down to, was like, I was just abandoning myself in this feminine essence for so many years. And femininity is not sexuality. It's like openness and ability to receive and intuition, and yeah, within that sexuality, you know, and how it shows up. So I didn't really trust myself to be in this, and I felt safer when I was in this masculine, which is ironic, right? Because it's like your protector. So once I started protecting myself, and I was like overprotective of myself, that I was quite like rigid, and I had a very unhealthy masculine that was like this bully energy. I always wanted to be doing, I needed to strive for success. I was fast paced, living in London, just like going to all these things, but quite disconnected, not particularly open to connection, not my ability to receive compliments, receive physical gifts, receive however it's showing up in my life. Like I was not able to receive. And then I lived very masculine for a very long time, for a really long time, maybe even in my relationships, like if I look at my relationships, I was holding the masculine pillar and I was going for very feminine men that needed like quite a lot of guidance. And yeah. And then I guess in the last 4 or 5 years, I've softened into my feminine and journeyed the more kind of swampy feminine, the different, the like the damsel feminine, and just really going into all these shadow archetypes and noticing how like my bully masculine would attack my damsel feminine, and how it was like this full argument consistently, like there was no harmony internally at all. And slowly over the years, just like working into these healthier expressions of these, where it's like very much self-love and self-worth, I feel like is such a big part of the feminine essence, and really being open to receiving and worthy of receiving and connected to sexuality and living life in softness and slowness, and you know, like having that, and then having this healthy masculine that like really supports me and is like very discerning of where I choose to share my energy, and is like my protector and my provider. And almost my feminine leads and my masculine steps in and he's like, no babe, like come on, you know, or like, yeah babe, you can do this, like let's do it, stop sitting, like let's go. And it really is this constant dialogue between these two energies. And then I think I'm kind of moving into the merging of where they're kind of like just existing, as opposed to me consciously calling one in or one out, if that makes sense. I'm like, oh, I'm just moving from this space now, and it feels way more supportive, and it's really integrated, and it's just clean. And then I have moments, you know, like I'm human, and I'll drop into this messy, chaotic archetype, or like I'll have these days where I'm being really hard on myself, and I call it out, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm doing that thing, you know, like I'm fully doing that thing, and I'm going to give myself permission to be in whatever it is.
Yeah. And I want to draw that into health. Have you noticed? Because, you know, if we talk about health, it's like when we're living from the, like, as a society, we're the ones making ourselves sick because we're living from the head, not the body. And I know so many men and women that are sick, and it's like, I mean, it doesn't maybe make sense to them around sexuality or this is your health, but it's like, you know, people don't get that. Again, they're like, oh, I'll just look for the science that says this and then take this chemical. Or, but it's like in your health, yeah, like you noticed as you've gone on that journey changes in, you know, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. I mean, we can even talk social health, financial health, you know, sex magic. Like, what have you noticed? Yeah, around the changes in your health as you've gone on that journey of balancing those energies?
What have I noticed? I mean, I was actually asked this the other day, like, why would somebody do this work? And I was like, it's kind of like, I don't love the word lifestyle. Like, I don't feel like it's like, oh, I'm living this lifestyle. It's just like an embodied experience of how I choose. And because of that, it filters out into everything. It filters out in how I can show up, like financially, business, all these kind of things. It's just like a richer experience, you know, and like it makes more sense because I'm tuned into what's true. So it's like all these things are aligning and everything's shifting and friendships change and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I'm okay with that. Like, it's okay because I'm getting closer and closer and closer to my truth and what my true experience looks and feels like. So it's like all these things, I'm open to it changing. And of course, like richer experience in life and like internal is reflected in the external, so you're receiving this richer however it wants to show up.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you something. I feel like we've touched on it a little bit, but I'd love to speak like a bit more specifically about how embodiment has affected your sexual experiences.
Yeah. So, like, whether it's sex or ejaculation or in the past, it's like I can now see nothing wrong with it. Like there are moments of it's about love and connection, but for so much of it was like about an emotional release. Or if I'm to name the parts of me, it's like back in the past, it was a teenager that needed to prove to himself he's good enough, or to prove to his mates he's good enough. Yeah, like the numbers game. But it's like an internal battle to prove I'm good enough. Am I attractive enough? Am I good enough? Am I sexy enough? Right? And so it's so icky, hey? Because it's like the experience is like actually, it's not. I mean, there's still connection. I don't get it wrong. There's still connection. There's still like, you know, but it's like there's this deep part in the psyche that's really validating. And you know, I mean, there's even like there's still love in moments, you know, with ex-partners and there's things. And there's even a moment I can remember of like feeling used by a woman. I remember even asking like at the end of the question, I was like, I can't remember. It's like I asked something like, I can't remember what I said, but it was like I just felt used, and that was interesting because normally it's like, oh, like I'm the man using, right? But it was like it's like I can imagine. It gives me compassion for what it feels like to be on the receiving end of disconnected sex. And as I've come more into the body and more into I really look at this experience. The reason why I can embody or integrate things pretty quickly, I believe, is because I've done so much work on the personal development of the mind, of the body, of the nervous. So it's like connected to energetically, or when I'm doing practices now, sexuality practices, I feel like it's quite easy for me to integrate. Right? I want to explain that. And in a sexual encounter that I can think of, it's like an encounter where it was like, again, it's a man and a woman, but it's like, you know, there's masculine, feminine in us. There's all of it. We're just a soul. But it was like an experience where it's like we're condensed. It's just flow. There's not lack of presence getting in the way, or am I good enough getting in the way, or how am I performing getting in the way, or do you love me getting in the way. It's like an honoring where we're literally dancing, literally connecting, like eye gazing, seeing each other for who we are, open heart, like a little block. It's like, or I can feel that, hey, I got you. Like I can hold the presence, surrender, dissolve, you are safe. And seeing in front of me that heart just open, so the eyes get teary, the body opening. You know, when we talk about penetration, right? It's like the reason why it like gets a bit funky down there, lack of, you know, erectile, you know, all this stuff, lack of opening, lack of safety, is because this takes not just the sexual organs opening, it's like an opening of the heart, it's an opening of seeing each other. And so that when that physical touch actually takes place, it's soft, it's slow, it's not just a hole in the goal, it's just right trying to get somewhere. And it's honoring both ways. You know, I can remember there's a moment in the experience, it's like, I want you to treat me like a king. Now, for me to even ask that as a desire, it's like I have to move through, I'm not a king, or I can't have what I want. And I don't know what the treating of the king's going to look like. That's where it takes the interdependence. And then she has the opportunity to treat like a king, whatever that is. And it's like, I have to be open to receive. I've asked for a receiving, right? I've asked for service, you know, the wheel of consent. Here, I want to receive. Because so much of my life is giving, serving. It's like, I want to receive. I want to have the nurturing touch of a woman who's present, who can feel and see me. Because her touch, her softening and holding me is so healing for me as a man. A man that's been conditioned to show up in the world is, I have to be a warrior. I have to protect. I have to hold. I have to provide. It's like, no, I want to receive. You know? And that opens the heart. So we're opening the heart in this physical touch in all of this, right? And the heart is more opening, the sexual is more opening, the head is dissolving into pleasure. But then when that penetration takes place, it's like it goes beyond the physical realm, into the energetic realm, into the psychedelic realm. Yeah, seeing visions, seeing colors, the soft, the touch that sends sensations and data, like, you know, shooting through, right? To be able to last for a long time, to have multiple orgasms, man and woman, right? Now, the picture I'm painting is what I've experienced and what's possible. Does that happen every time? No. Will that happen with every different person? No, because it's taking two beings to come into a part. It's like, if I'm busy in my life thinking about work or something, well, obviously that's going to happen. So like, I'm painting a picture of what's possible, what I've experienced. And I know it can go beyond that. Like, I'm just at the beginning of this experience, but it's like, it takes two people, right? And a specific circumstance, you know, whether it's the music to just get us out of our heads or whatever. And then it takes both people being open, and it's about safety. And there is nothing more in this life than, you know, union for me is the most important thing. Union with nature, union with myself, union with another human being. It's my core desire. Like, hey, I'm not interested about making heaps of money or business unless there is freedom and union and love in this life. And like, sexual or physical encounter is just one reflection of when we can achieve union, but it is one of the most sacred because it was designed to create another being. So I imagine in my life, like, I don't have a partner right now, but it's like, that's a design. I have no doubt about it, that I'm here to bring children into this world and to be a partner. And it's like, it's to consciously, in every sexual encounter, or even the moment of choosing, right, to want to have baby, like whatever, protected sex, it's like, that will be with intention. Like, how we bring intention to every experience. That the best of my vitamins will come through ejaculation, the best of my atoms, the DNA, the soul, the landing, right? Like, and this isn't just the sex, this is about life. Like, the power of intention. Intentionality. Right? In the morning routine, I'm sending prayers to loved ones, I'm opening my heart, I'm drinking cacao, you know, like meditating to higher selves. It's like, you know, that power of intention. So it's like, I'm just exploring as a human being too, the beginning of what even is possible around sexuality. Yeah, and I would love to hear from you. I can feel you receiving that. I would like, you know, what's just there for you as you receive and hear that. But also, I would love to hear from your perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. So beautiful to hear words spoken that I so deeply resonate with, and I think it like circles back round to the sacredness of those three words of like the presence, the intention, and the reverence of like what we're creating here. And you just speaking it was just like, yeah, I feel it in every single inch of my body. And I think you spoke about presence, and I can speak from my experience, that's like my deepest desire, right? Is for somebody to be, and not just in sex, but just with me. Like, it's one of my highest values is presence. Like, I want to know that you're there with me and you're not elsewhere and you're not thinking about anything else. I want you to be there with my body. I'm sharing my heart, I'm sharing my body with you. How much more can you be in this moment with me, please? You know, because I don't want to be anywhere other than here. And I think like, you also spoke to this receiving piece, and that's such a theme for women. And I was having a conversation with some people that I met, and it just reminded me of how needed this work is, because she was sharing her experience and saying how so much of her sexual experience is about giving for validation, of like knowing that he's receiving something and he's enjoying it and getting off on it gives her validation, and it takes her out of her body, and she's not so fussed about like what her experience is. It's all about his experience. And I know that for men that can also be really common, as the man is like, I just want her to come, like I just want her to have this thing. And it's like, so we're doing it from here so that we can feel better about ourselves, and it's taking us out of the experience. How about we just are in our bodies. And this is why the embodiment piece is like, how about I'm just so in my body that I'm feeling what's alive. And like, if it's tears and if it's like, oh, this is uncomfortable for me, I'm not sure about this, it doesn't really matter, because we're just there and it's a moment, and then the next moment is here. But when we're thinking about like this goal, or like what we want them to have, or my ego will feel good if I know that you're coming or you're experiencing pleasure, it's disconnect. Again, that's not connection. That's like manipulating an experience to be something, and it's taking us out of the truth. So can you be here with me now, please?
Oh, what you're sharing there is hitting. It's like music to my ears.
And I think that comes back to like, sorry to interrupt you, but the body thing, it's like listening and responding. Like we can speak in sexual experiences, sure, and be like, oh, I like it here, and like that feels good. And also, can we just be so deeply receptive to what's happening that it's like, cool, I'm just going to move you this way, and we're going to go here, because we're feeling each other's bodies and we're responding. You know, we're listening and we're responding.
And that bit there, that, you know, I think one of the most common conditions in society is people are trying to help others or serve others. And so much, if you just look at it, so much of our focus, you know, the mother trying to help the children, the not-for-profit industry trying to help people in another country, everyone help, that all that attention, energy going out is just attention, energy that's not going in. And this is, I believe, truly what Gandhi meant when he said, be the change, is it doesn't mean going and changing other people. It means changing yourself. And as that, in that sexual example you used, it's like when I'm trying to play, like I need you to be pleasure. And that actually turns me on. It's because I've created a neural pathway where I get pleasure when you get pleasured. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, other than, as you say, it is a lack of self-worth. I'm trying to make myself feel good. So that's what the whole sexual experience becomes about. And people, we don't know this. We're unconscious to this. And then the other, like, so I'm not actually fully receiving the pleasure or in my body that I could be. I'm making it about pleasuring them, which is somehow activating me, but it's just a brain neural pathway that's a bit funky from some childhood conditioning. And it is emotional manipulation. In the shadow work, for most of us to recognize we are just emotionally manipulating everyone in our lives to get what we want, but not actually owning all the wounds that are in us.
I've lost you. You back? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. Yeah.
Someone tried to call me. That's right. Is what we don't see is that when a child doesn't get what they want, they throw a tantrum and cry. Now, we look at that as normal, but actually what's happened as adults is we're just more covert now, and we but on a really nice way, or we become the bully, or whatever people do. Or I become the giver. And I'm not interested in how many lives you've impacted as a giver, really, or whatever. Like that. It comes right back down to it, because if all of that is just working over the top of trauma and something, really, who are we helping in the world? Because if I look back through mythology, the same human things are played out, just in different technological paradigms. Marcus Aurelius, when he was running an empire, is having the same thoughts I'm having right now today.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether you're running an empire, killing lots of people, serving, It's like when we actually help, it's by healing. And to come back to a sexual encounter, when a sexual encounter, it's like, imagine coming into a room, when people go to get energy healings, or, you go to the psychologist, or you go to a psychedelic experience, MDMA with a psychiatrist, what's happening is everyone is just undoing the hatred for that person, the trauma from that experience. Some energy is releasing here. Is sex can be that too. If we take out all the bullshit stories about sex, it's wrong, it's, you know, dirty, it's whatever. It's like for a man, a woman, everyone to enter a room with the intention of we're lifelong partners, but not that this is going to be healing, because it's honoring, we're aware of our shit, we come together, and tears, as you said, can be cried. When the experience is pure, the heart can become more open. The sex can become more open. And I heard back in Egypt, when those warriors came back from, that there would be sexual priestesses that would have a sexual experience with them to heal them from their trauma before they go back to see their parents, I mean their family and their children. Now imagine all the men that were in World War II. We know Afghanistan, like all these things right now have PTSD. And if we take out all the bullshit stories about what sex is and what it's become, we've actually made it that way, right? Men using it for an emotional release and for the, it's like we actually return to healing. And it's going to take not just women, not just men, not just people identifying in between. It's going to take all of us. And I know, working with women, I know how much trauma women carry, especially around men, and just the statistics that are out there. It's like we've all got the trauma. Recognize that first. We have to come back. We have to forgive the other, forgive ourselves, come back to compassion. And when we truly come back to our heart, then we will be able to meet each other in union. Yeah. And I'm not interested in people living a life of being the bully or the protector, as you say, to play a masculine role because they're trying to fight the patriarchy or trying to do the role to do that. I'm interested in integrated, healed human beings who are going to bring up a next generation of children that won't carry the same trauma that keeps going through generations and generations. When I heal myself, I heal my whole lineage and I heal the world. And it doesn't look like making lots of money. It doesn't look like some accolade out there, how many lives I've impacted. As someone said, you think you're enlightened, go spend 2 weeks with your family. You truly want to change the world, go back and bring presence and awareness to your family. Those few people that are in your house, not the millions of lives you're trying to change. You know? And somehow this is to do with sex and sexuality. I can't even believe it myself. You know, this seeking journey has taken me through all the world, corporate and academic and entrepreneurship and coaching and plants and nature and permaculture, and sexuality is a key.
Yeah, well, I think it, like, how you do anything is how you do everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how are we showing up in sex? How are we treating our bodies? How are we ignoring? And for me, my experience is that the gateway has been the pathway. The body has been the gateway to like a greater sense of awareness. When I'm tuned into my body, I'm really like, oh, okay, cool. It's also reflected externally. And I think so much, we can learn so much about ourselves and from others through sex as a tool, right? And that's self-pleasure, and that's how we're suppressing parts of ourselves. That's how we're showing up in intimate relationships. It's just like this full mirror.
And it's going to take community to have this healing take place, because as long as men don't trust each other because they're trying to fight over resources of women and money and jobs from scarcity, as long as women don't trust each other, as long as women don't feel safe with men, as long as men keep seeing women not as the true essence of who they are, vice versa, it's like we won't be able to enter this space of healing. I've really recognized that it's not just my family, my home, my thing. It's like genuinely opening to every man. You know, there's so many men I see with their partners, and the woman's like open to me, and I can just feel the man's intimidation. It's like, brother, I don't need anything from you or your part, like, you know, like, right?
Women the same, you know?
Yeah. And like, but even we just have to undo all the jealousy, all it's eternal freedom, right?
Yeah.
And none of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to take community.
Yeah. Kristian, thank you for an epic conversation.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's any more questions that you want to ask? I feel like we could sit and talk about this all day, but it feels like quite a beautiful close. So I'm just going to ask if there's questions you have there that we can.
I want to ask anyone watching. I feel like there's been a few people watching for a long time. If you have any questions right now, just drop them in the chat. And do you want to just take 3 breaths, and we'll just see if there's anything else to say. But I feel pretty complete, and we'll just take 3 breaths together. All right, taking a breath in, hold that. Yeah. Just want to honor your spirit as you're on this journey, and the love that's there, and the commitment, and the grace, and the devotion to this path. Yeah.
Thank you. And just thank you for being present with me. Like, having time with people is my biggest love language, and like something that I value. So just thank you for being here and being fully here, and not being anywhere else, just making this experience exactly what it has the potential to be. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice to chat to you. How can people find you? Do you want to share? Do you have anything coming up?
You can find me on my socials. It's just my name, Kristian Martinow with K. And I work with people one-on-one. And then I have a group program coming up in September, which is helping people self-actualize from all the angles of life. Everything I've explored, through finances, through to energy, through to time, through to sexuality, through to food, through to communication, relationship, like all the gamuts that make up self-mastery of our life. So that'll be happening in September. Yeah. Beautiful. And what about you?
So I've just launched a 8-month unfolding into the feminine. So that's going to be starting in September, and I'm just taking 3 women for that journey. And it's something that's like cracked me into a million pieces, and I'm really, really, really excited to take the 3 women that feel called to journey this with me. It's something that feels really special. I was actually woken up 3 nights in a row consecutively just before my 30th birthday at 4:22 a.m. and my birthday is the 22nd of April, with just like all these poems channeling from what this experience is going to be. So yeah, you can check that out on my Instagram. I also do one-to-one programs, and if you're based in the Sunshine Coast, I'm going to be running a in-person, yes, if they let us, in-person workshop, inviting women to connect to their sensuality and the essence of devotion.
Beautiful. Amazing. And I just got, when you talk about you living from your body and being a channel and those poems coming in, it's like when you're birthing a program, what I've realized, like, we talk about sex magic, like, it is so much more. How I used to create as an entrepreneur to how I understand the laws of nature and the universe. It's like, you're birthing life.
Entity, like it feels like something that I'm not in control of. It's just like moving through me. Yeah.
You're being a beautiful channel and vessel. Awesome.
Thank
Enjoy.
you so much.